The Cosby Show is often remembered as one of the most influential and groundbreaking sitcoms of the 1980s and 1990s, a series that portrayed the Huxtable family with charm, dignity, and intelligence, setting a new cultural standard for how African American families could be represented on screen. Yet as time has gone on and as whispers have grown louder, it has become increasingly clear that behind the perfect smiles and carefully staged moments of harmony, there were hidden truths, buried conflicts, and secret struggles that were never meant for public eyes. And those truths came rushing back into conversation with the tragic and mysterious final days of Malcolm Jamal Warner, the actor who played Theo Huxtable, whose life seemed intertwined with the glory and the shadows of the show he had grown up on. And at the center of the storm of speculation that followed, his passing was none other than Phylicia Rashad, the actress who gave life to Claire Huxtable and who became a cultural icon of strength, class, and grace, but whose name unexpectedly surfaced in connection with the rumors of secret tapes, sealed envelopes, and revelations that threatened to shape the legacy of the entire show. When The Cosby Show aired, it quickly became not just a program but a movement, showing Cliff and Claire Huxtable raising their children in an upper-middle-class environment where education, love, and moral lessons guided every storyline. And for millions of viewers, it was a weekly affirmation that African American families could be portrayed with nuance, sophistication, and humor rather than stereotypes. But behind the scenes, according to sources who have spoken over the years, tensions existed that were carefully masked from the cameras, personal conflicts simmered, and questions about financial dealings lingered, all of which became more pronounced as talk emerged about what Malcolm Jamal Warner knew and what he had allegedly been preparing to expose before his sudden and controversial death. Accounts suggest that in the final days of his life, Malcolm had been in possession of a manila envelope filled with sensitive documents and a VHS tape containing behind-the-scenes footage and perhaps even audio that captured moments never intended for release, ranging from evidence of disputes among cast members to potential financial irregularities and secret conversations that contradicted the carefully curated image of the Huxtable household. And these materials, according to those close to him, were meant to be shared with a journalist who had expressed interest in publishing a comprehensive story about the hidden side of the show. Tragically, Malcolm did not live long enough to see this plan through, and his unexpected death left friends and fans questioning whether it was truly the accident authorities described or whether something more sinister had taken place to ensure that his secrets would never come to light. Complicating the story further was the claim that one of these envelopes somehow ended up with Phylicia Rashad, a fact that raised questions about her involvement, her knowledge, and her silence. For while she has always maintained a dignified public presence, the connection between her alleged evidence could not be ignored, and speculation only grew louder when it was suggested that Malcolm had been speaking openly to certain close friends about the existence of the envelope in the days leading up to his death, telling them that he felt both a sense of urgency and a sense of danger as he considered whether he should finally reveal what he knew. When news of his passing broke, the official statement described it as an accident, yet the inconsistencies in the details, the timing of his conversations, and the nature of the secrets he allegedly possessed made it difficult for many to accept this explanation, and soon theories began to spread that perhaps his death had been orchestrated to protect reputations and to keep the legacy of The Cosby Show from being permanently tainted. Theories that, while unproven, have remained persistent in the minds of fans, journalists, and observers who believe that the full truth has never been told. What makes this story even more compelling is the contrast between the image of The Cosby Show as a beacon of family values and cultural pride, and the darker undercurrents of fear, betrayal, and secrecy that now surround it. For while the show continues to be celebrated for breaking barriers and setting new standards, it is also shadowed by the idea that the world it portrayed was in some ways an illusion, and that the real lives of its cast members were far more complicated and perhaps even tragic. And Malcolm Jamal Warner's untimely end serves as the most painful symbol of that reality, a reminder that fame, success, and cultural impact can come at a cost hidden from the public eye. Phylicia Rashad, through all of this, has remained largely silent, maintaining the grace and composure that made her a respected figure in the industry. but silence itself can sometimes fuel speculation. And in this case, it has only deepened the mystery, leaving fans to wonder what she knows, what she might have seen, and what role she may have played, if any, in the chain of events that led from Malcolm's possession of the envelope to the moment of his death and beyond. Whether or not the VHS tape and documents will ever be seen by the public remains uncertain, but their mere existence, suggested by so many who claim to have heard Malcolm speak of them, has been enough to create an aura of secrecy and suspicion around the entire legacy of The Cosby Show. And it is within that aura that people now revisit the old episodes, watching not only for the lessons and the laughter, but also for the subtle cracks in the perfect image. The moments where reality may have bled through fiction, unspoken truths that are only now beginning to emerge from the shadows, leaving us to wonder if we ever truly knew the Huxtables, the actors who played them, or the hidden world they lived in when the cameras were turned off. As the story surrounding Malcolm Jamal Warner's final days continues to unfold, the focus inevitably shifts to the pieces of evidence he was believed to have possessed. The whispered accounts of tapes and documents that contained truths never meant to be public, and the strange connection materials seem to have with Phylicia Rashad, whose otherwise pristine reputation has now been entangled in a mystery that refuses to fade. And though Rashad herself has never spoken openly about these claims, her silence has been interpreted in different ways, with some seeing it as dignified restraint and others viewing it as an unspoken acknowledgement that there may indeed be something she is not saying. At the heart of the speculation is the alleged VHS tape, a recording described by those who claim to know of its contents as a collection of behind-the-scenes moments revealing heated arguments, candid admissions, and perhaps even incriminating exchanges that contradicted the carefully constructed image of harmony on the set of The Cosby Show. And according to friends of Malcolm, he had expressed unease about holding onto this tape, telling them he feared what might happen were ever discovered by the wrong people. Yet he also felt it was too important to ignore, too important to let disappear into obscurity without being acknowledged, because it represented a side of the show and its legacy that had been hidden for too long. The alleged tape was not the only item in his possession, as reports suggest that the manila envelope also contained financial records, correspondences, and legal documents that pointed to irregularities in the way certain contracts were handled and royalties were distributed, material that could have sparked uncomfortable questions those who had long benefited from the continuing profits and prestige of the show. And it was in the days leading up to his death that Malcolm was said to be weighing his options, considering whether to hand over these materials to a journalist, to an attorney, or to someone he trusted within the industry. And it was during this period of indecision that his life was suddenly and tragically cut short, leaving the envelope's fate shrouded in uncertainty. The official narrative suggested that the envelope and tape either never existed or were misplaced after his passing. Yet multiple individuals have insisted otherwise, stating that they saw Malcolm holding the envelope, that they heard him describe its importance, and that he confided in them about his plan to finally reveal what he had been carrying for so long. And it is here that Phylicia Rashad's name once again enters story, because among the many rumors was the suggestion that the envelope had been quietly delivered to her after Malcolm's death, though by whom and for what purpose remains an unanswered question, with some believing she was chosen because she had the stature and the trust to protect contents, while others believe she may have had a personal interest in ensuring that the contents never became public at all. The mystery is deepened by the fact that Rashad has always been a staunch defender of The Cosby Show and of Bill Cosby himself, even in the face of overwhelming controversy. And her loyalty, though admired by some, has also raised eyebrows, making her alleged possession of such explosive material even more significant in the eyes of those who follow this narrative closely. Friends of Malcolm have expressed frustration that the truth has been so difficult to uncover, pointing to the inconsistencies in the timeline of his final days, the sudden halt of his conversations about the envelope, and the strange absence of any concrete evidence after his death. all of which together create an impression not of coincidence but of careful orchestration designed to keep certain truths hidden indefinitely, and whether or not this orchestration involved individuals from within the cast, from outside forces connected to the entertainment industry, or from unknown sources determined to preserve reputations, the result has been the same: a wall of silence that prevents the public from knowing what Malcolm may have risked his life to reveal. For fans, this has been a painful reality to reconcile, because The Cosby Show was not merely entertainment, but a symbol of progress, a representation of success and stability that resonated across generations, and to think that behind this symbol were secrets capable of dismantling its very foundation is a thought many struggle to accept. Yet the persistence of these stories, the repeated references to the envelope and tape, and the connections that point back to Phylicia Rashad have kept the mystery alive, ensuring that the questions will not simply fade away. The role of Rashad in particular has been the subject of intense speculation, because she is both a beloved figure and a figure whose actions have sometimes been polarizing. And while there is no concrete evidence tying her to the disappearance of envelope, the suggestion that it might have reached her possession has fueled countless debates, with some arguing she was protecting Malcolm's legacy and others arguing she was protecting the show's image. And either possibility carries heavy implications for how history will judge not only her, but the entire Cosby Show phenomenon. What complicates matters further is the reality that Malcolm himself was known for his loyalty and his discretion, often avoiding public criticism of his castmates or the show, which makes it all the more striking that in his final days he appeared willing to break that silence, a shift that many interpret as evidence of just how serious and significant the contents of the envelope truly were. And while skeptics continue to dismiss the entire story as rumor or conspiracy, the fact remains that too many individuals have corroborated aspects of it for it to be ignored entirely, leaving behind an unresolved tension between the image of The Cosby Show as a beacon of family values and the possibility that it was also the stage for hidden dramas, secret conflicts, and dangerous truths. And in that unresolved tension lies the legacy of Malcolm Warner's final days, a legacy that cannot be separated from the mystery of the envelope, the alleged tape, and the quiet yet powerful presence of Phylicia Rashad, whose name remains, fairly or unfairly, at the center of one of the most enduring and troubling stories tied to one of television's most celebrated shows. In the aftermath of Malcolm Jamal Warner's death, and the growing storm of speculation about the envelope, the tape, and Phylicia Rashad's alleged involvement, the conversation has expanded beyond the individuals directly connected to the mystery and has become a broader reflection on the fragile line between public image and hidden reality, especially when it comes to cultural landmarks like The Cosby Show, which for years was upheld as a shining example of progress and representation, yet now finds itself shadowed by questions of secrecy, betrayal, and the cost of maintaining perfection. All costs, and while the official statements surrounding Malcolm's passing painted a picture of tragic but ordinary circumstances, the accounts that contradict this narrative continue to resonate, particularly because they align too closely with his own words in the days before his death, words in which he reportedly confided fears of danger, the weight of responsibility he felt in carrying the envelope, and the uncertainty about whom he could truly trust with what he described as truths that needed to be told. Those who were closest to him recall how he seemed to shift in tone during his final weeks, no longer the quietly loyal cast member who avoided public drama, but instead a man who appeared burdened, even haunted, by the responsibility of deciding how much to reveal and when. And it is in this shift that many see the clearest evidence that the envelope and tape were not merely inventions of rumor but real and pressing concerns that Malcolm himself struggled with until the end. And this is precisely why the unexplained absence of these items after his death continues to cast such a long shadow, because their disappearance suggests either deliberate concealment or deliberate destruction, each possibility raising its own disturbing set of questions. If the materials were destroyed, who had access to them, and why would they take such action unless the contents were damaging enough to justify extreme measures? And if the materials still exist but remain Hidden, who is holding them now, and what power are they wielding by keeping such secrets locked away? At the heart of this puzzle remains Phylicia Rashad, whose name comes up again and again in connection to the fate of the envelope, not because of any confirmed action on her part, but because of the weight her role carries within the larger story of The Cosby Show. For she was not just another cast member, but the embodiment of its ideals, the mother figure whose presence anchored the show, and whose off-screen influence gave her a unique position of authority. And for this reason alone, the idea that the envelope could have reached her hands has struck many as both plausible and symbolically fitting. And whether she kept it to shield the legacy of the show, to protect those involved, or to preserve her own sense of control, the fact remains that her silence has left room for endless speculation. Critics argue that her silence is itself a form of complicity, a way of allowing damaging truths to remain buried while presenting an image of dignity that keeps her untouchable, while her defenders insist that she has no obligation to address baseless rumors, and that her refusal to engage should be seen as a refusal to give credibility to stories that cannot be proven. Yet both sides agree on one point: her role in this story, whether active or passive, cannot be dismissed, because it is her association with the envelope that keeps the mystery alive and ensures that Malcolm's final days are remembered not only with sorrow but with questions. Beyond Rashad, however, the larger issue is what this story says about the entertainment industry and the way it handles inconvenient truths. For The Cosby Show is not the first nor the last program to present one reality on screen while living another off-screen, and the idea that a beloved cultural institution could be hiding damaging secrets speaks to a broader pattern in which power, reputation, and financial interest outweigh transparency and honesty, and it is this broader pattern that makes the mystery of Malcolm's envelope so compelling, because it suggests that what happened to him and to his secrets may not have been an isolated incident, but part of a larger system of silence that governs how stories are told and how legacies are preserved. In the years since his passing, the fascination with his final days has not diminished but grown, with new generations of fans discovering The Cosby Show through streaming platforms, only to find themselves confronted not only with the laughter and lessons of the Huxtable family, but also with the shadows cast by the unresolved questions surrounding one of its most beloved stars. And as these viewers learn about the rumors of tapes and envelopes, they too join the chorus of voices demanding answers, ensuring that the mystery continues to live on even as those who may know the truth refuse to speak. What makes this even more haunting is the thought that the answers may already be lost forever, that the tape may have been destroyed, that the documents may have been shredded, and that the only remaining evidence lies in the memories of those who were close enough to know but unwilling or unable to break their silence, leaving the public with fragments of a story that may never fully come together. Yet even in fragments the story is powerful, because it reveals the cost of silence, the dangers of secrecy, and the fragile nature of legacies built on appearances rather than transparency. Malcolm Jamal Warner, in this narrative, becomes not only a beloved actor remembered for his role as Theo Huxtable, but also a symbol of the risks faced by those who hold truths that others want hidden. And his final days, marked by fear, burden, and ultimately tragedy, are now etched into the larger legacy of The Cosby Show, a legacy that cannot be fully celebrated without also acknowledging the questions that linger, the envelope that vanished, and the name of Phylicia Rashad, which remains tied, however ambiguously, to the fate of secrets that may never be revealed, yet continue to haunt the memory of a show that once promised to represent the best of family and community, but now stands as a reminder that every perfect image has shadows behind it.